Happy Tuesday, everybody! Welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Man Mouth. We have a really good show. We have a friend of the show by the name of Stan Huff coming to join us, but I'm going to introduce the crew, then we're going to save Stan for last. How's that sound? Rick, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks, Scott.
And Eric, I know you wanted Stan back, and we got him.
Yes, sir.
And Jordan Long, well, Sports Scoop. Well, you know what? You made a new friend tonight with Stan Huff.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
You're very welcome. And last but not least, by popular demand, Stan Huff. Welcome back, Mr. Baseball Lifer.
Well, I don't know how popular, but I'll take it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Just give everybody an overview we're talking about. We'll talk about some rule changes, lack of discipline in Major League Baseball, World Baseball Classic, among other things. So we hope you can stay with us for the entire show. We'll definitely make sure that everybody can go out there and get their baseball knowledge. And like I said before, we try to do everything we can here to come up with some of the better guests, and that's what we're striving to do, show in and show out. And while I do that, I'll give you ways to find us both on the air, on Facebook as well. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So how have you been doing lately, Stan? You doing all right?
Everything's good. Yeah, all's good.
All right. Well, very good. Like I said, we're going to, and then we'll have our parting shots a little bit later toward the end of the broadcast. So I should point out, everybody, that, the audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. There's a lot of different ones out there. So please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Made some progress. Also, please comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com, and we'll go out there and match you with the appropriate show as well. If you want to advertise, call 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So there you have it. And I'll mention this later on in the show. With that said, let's get to it. So we'll talk about rule changes, okay? And there's been a lot of them. We've talked about the pitch clock. We've talked about the ghost runner. We've talked about the larger bases. So, what we're going to do, Sam? We're going to set the table with you on them, and then we'll go around with the crew, and then they can go ahead and talk about it. Are there any ones you like or dislike in this group?
None of them.
Okay.
I don't like any of them.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with the pitch clock. Let's say you got a guy that's real eager to hit. Okay, so you might up tempo with him, of course. Well, then you got the patient guy. The up tempo guy. You're going to slow down. Well, if you're over 20 seconds, there's a ball right there. I believe is the rule, right? Yeah. So when you slow your tempo down to try to psychologically put this guy in effect, you're making him wait, so his anxiety levels is growing a little bit. So when you have to pitch within 20 seconds, you really can't do it that way. We've done it that way in the past, and these guys that were so eager to hit, and we make them wait and wait and wait. The next thing you know, they're thinking about other things other than hitting. Well, that's not everybody, so it's not going to slow the game down that much. And also, I spoke with Ferguson Jenkins about this too. And when he pitched, his games were 2 hours and 15 minutes on the average. So one game he pitched against I can't think of his name right now, with St. Louis Cardinals.
Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson, yeah, hour and 57 minutes. So the guy got a beer, got sat down, and it's time to go. So it's a lot of people are complaining about it. And at one time they were timing the guys in the on deck circle, timing the guys at the plate, and all this and all that. And then all of a sudden they bring in where they're going to check, foul balls or instant replays. Now that slowed the game down immeasurably. All right. Now, I know there's only like 3 of them per team, right? I don't know, something like that. But that is, in effect, that really, and I understand why they wanted it, but that slowed the game down. I don't know why they have to mess with it like that. Okay, then you got the bases. Why do you need a bigger base? I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. It's been fine for the last 180 years or whatever. I don't get that one. And somebody might want to explain that one to me, but I don't get it. What was the other one? Oh,
Well, you got the Ghost Runner, you got the 3 batter minimum, mountain visit,
oh, that Ghost
limitation,
Runner
larger
deal.
base, pitch
What's
clock.
that all
I think
about?
those are the 5 main ones, aren't they?
Yeah, putting a guy at second base
Yeah,
with what? With one out in an extra inning game to see who scores first.
Nobody knows, I think.
Nobody out.
Nobody out. Okay, so we could go on and on and on. Nobody score any runs, even with that situation. So how long do you think it might go? I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. They got a time limit.
Yeah, right.
Got to turn the lights off after 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. Look, I don't know. I'm more of a traditional guy. It's messing with the game is going to kill it. Matter of fact, and as far as I'm concerned, it's running a distant fourth to football, basketball, soccer, and baseball.
Well,
And
you
anyway.
want to know something strange here, though, Stan? If you're covering a game over at Marlins Park, you want those games to be over by 1 o'clock in the morning because you're paying for it. You don't know if your car's going to get locked in Little Havana. So maybe I'm not kidding with you to some extent, but I breathe you, okay. But those longer games, when they get past 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're dealing with the city of Miami, and they got to keep them open. But you don't want to really. I'm with you. I don't like it either. I've always been a firm believer in 9-inning game. Let it go as long as it's going to go, but it doesn't seem like they're thinking that way these days.
So what does the city of Miami do?
Well, here's the thing. You got a bunch of parking garages that you have. So you have to pay for parking, and then they close the garages at a certain time is what they do.
Oh.
And many of us are paying. No, I mean, nobody's going to get stuck there. But the reality of the situation is I know that, some places have limitations, curfews or whatever. I don't know. I'm not even, the media, they're going to let us out because they have a designated garage anyhow. But still, when you're dealing with those municipalities, it's a different story. But I'm going to go over each and every one of them now that you brought it up, okay? Now I'll let everybody address it, but mainly Stan. So, Stan, pitch clock, you don't like it. Is that correct?
I do not like it.
All right. What about the larger bases?
No. It
Okay.
doesn't make any sense.
Mound visits. Mound visits, they only allow you like 2 or 3, 4 per game. You all right with that one?
This is a lot of strategy that's
Right.
being taken away from the game,
Right.
and for the sake of saving a few minutes.
Right. No, I'm with you. 3 batter minimum for relievers.
No, I don't like that either.
Yeah, I never minded that one because back in the old days, they used to pitch 2 or 3 innings. So of
Well,
all these,
wait a minute. You only got so many pitchers too. You can't use them all up in one night.
right.
I mean, you're gonna have to save some arms for the next day and the day after. So you're playing every day. That's a tough one. Okay. So 3 batter minimum. I don't know. I can see there's some good points to that, but then again, no. I mean, look. Let's put it to you this way.
Sure.
You got a starter. You got a middle relief guy. You got a short guy, setup guy, and then you got your closer. And these all are specific times during the ball game when they're used, correct?
Right. Correct.
Well, that's kind of a cookie cutter deal right there. But everybody is doing that. Well, we get in a game, and when I was managing an American Association, and my closer had 20 saves. All right, he had 20 saves, but in this final game, the night before, he gave up a 2-run home run, and we won the game by 1 run when we should have won it by 3.
Right.
Anyway, what he looked like throwing up there was batting practice that night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd called another guy in that I'd had in Baltimore when I was with the Orioles, and this guy was a bulldog. All right, so I bring him in, and he finally gets in shape about the last 2 weeks of the season, and that's when I needed him the most.
Right.
Okay, think about it. When I in the 9th inning, I put this kid that could throw out there in the 8th inning. He went through the other team like a hot knife through butter.
Mhm.
Okay, so I had my closer up, the guy that I normally used. I told him, you're not going in, but if you get man on the base, I'm going to put you in, but I'm going to use this other guy.
Right.
Because psychologically, well, as they were thinking, they thought I was going to bring in the closer, the guy that gave up the 2-run home run the night before.
Right.
Well, the kid I had out there in the 8th inning, I went down there and said, I want you to go out. You're going to close the game. He said, okay. I said, but we're going to do it this way. I'm going to have the other guy throwing in the bullpen. When they come off the field and turn around to look, I want him to sit down, and I want you to walk out there, walk out to the mound as slow as you can.
Right.
I want to see some jaws dropping because their anticipation was the closer. So in the big leagues, it's the closer. Okay, it's the short guy. So if you're think about this, if you go away from that and something happens, you get blamed. I mean, you're run over the coals. In this case, what if he doesn't? If he does do good, then all of a sudden somebody says you're a genius, just because you went away from the cookie cutter deal. Right. So you're getting into a situation. You got 3 batters. You're turning into some whole different strategy now that you've got to get adjusted to, and you can't use pitchers like you used to could use them. So that's my point on that.
Oh, that's fine. No, it's a valid point. Let's face the reality. Pitching's been turned upside down so many different ways anyhow, with the Tommy John surgeries and all that. I guess if you're an old conventional traditionalist like we are, and I'm talking about traditionalists now, Stan, accustomed to, we're used to seeing guys go 2 or 3 innings, 4 inning closers, the long reliever. And it seems like a lot of that is really kind of extinct these days. But I totally understand your point. Plus the amount of Tommy John surgeries and the injuries that they have to treat, pitchers much more fragile.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I think if everybody trained like Nolan Ryan did, everybody could go 9 innings. Now, when there was a game he threw against Louis Tiant in Boston, I believe, when he was with the Angels, and his pitch count, I think, was like 270 pitches, and Louis Tiant threw 255 pitches, and they stayed the whole game. Okay, and they were ready to start the next times out. So the bottom line is, if all your pitchers are in that kind of shape to pitch, you want your starters to go 9 innings. Look at it at the end of the year when you're playing 162 games. And you're going into a playoff situation. You got a fresher bullpen than the other guys that wore them out all year. You got a chance to win it now, but as we know, it's all about pitching.
So let me ask you a question. Did you ever watch All in the Family with Carol O'Connor?
Yeah, I did, by the way.
Now he's wondering, wait, where are you going with this one? Am I getting trapped? Well, I'm not going to go out there. Where am I going with this one? Okay. Those were the days.
Those were the days. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Stan, but you really, I told you, man, that anything could happen here. Those are the days. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but man, Stan, you really set me up for that one, my friend.
Okay, all these analytics I think are great, but it's like if you're making a pie, there's many ingredients in that pie, and these organizations that are going one ingredient for their pie, it's going to fall in on them. You can't do it that way. I think it's good though that it's being used, but it's one of these things it's going to turn sour one of these days, and people are going to say, okay, we can use it, but we're not going to make it the one thing. So I know some organizations they were firing scouts because they're going 100% analytics. There's another problem right there. Well, anyway, baseball is still a fun game, though. I can tell you, making it all these problems. Now, Rick brought up the bat flip. That hit a sore spot.
I hate it. It's so obnoxious. And if I was a manager and someone did a bat flip against, I'd beat them. I mean, you're gonna get beaten right the next bat.
Well,
that's simple.
You're speaking like a true athlete because
I mean, they'll hit him in the head want to hit him in the head, like you hit him in the butt.
Be diplomatic.
Fleshy meat somewhere.
Yeah,
just tell them, don't do that again.
the ribs, if you get them in the ribs, they're going to last for a while. You know, they're going to be
Yeah, I
hurt
mean,
for a
was it
while.
Jose Batista, the one that did the bat flips? They're obnoxious,
Well,
completely
no,
obnoxious.
okay, it's obnoxious. It shows lack of personal discipline. Well, okay, now we're getting into something here. Really, you know, we're getting into a hornet's nest now. The personal discipline. I had a dad come up to me. We're doing lessons with a kid. You know, he says, "Yeah, I don't think I want my kid looking up these ball players." I said, "Well, wait a minute. All right, you got something on your mind. What do you got?" He said, "Okay, look at these ball players. They come out, their hair down to their back. Okay, yeah, and they got mountain man beards. Yeah, okay." But they hit real good, but they pitch real good. Okay, you're right. I hear what the guy's saying. He said, but you know what's telling me? He told me that these guys don't have any discipline. And if they don't have discipline amongst themselves, they're not going to be very good team ball players. He said, I don't want my kid, you know, aping after somebody like that. You know, I said, okay, well, you got made a point, which brought to mind, you know, I started watching this. All these Major League Baseball games I watched, there's one team that just didn't do that.
Yeah.
It was the New York Yankees.
Right.
They had short hair, they had no facial hair. And one thing, one time a reporter asked George Steinbrenner, "Hey, boss," he said, "why don't you put the names on the back so we know who these guys are?" Well, he turned around and said, "Because the only one that counts is on the front."
It's true.
Which boom, boom, right there. I mean, that shut the guy up really quick. But so they still don't put the names on the back either, you know. And over in Yankee Land, which I was over there for a couple of years, there is a discipline that you have to get comfortable with. Otherwise, you're not going to be there.
That's true. You know what, Stan? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me go over one or two things if I can, because it's really interesting how we talked about the Yankee way, and I want to continue to elaborate on that.
Sure.
But I want to make sure that we touched over these points. I think the ghost runner, I'll always hate it because, number one, to me, it isn't what the game was meant to be, having a fictitious runner and the pitcher gets victimized. And now they're talking about robot umpires, electronics. I think that's absurd too. I mean, there's only so long that you can go with the period of the game. At some point or another, you have to just kind of like, okay, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't. Look, you got to understand, and I was tough on umpires, and I regret that. One thing that I wish I was better. But being so competitive, you're wanting to win at all. You know, not at all costs, but win, and you just want a fair shake. And when you don't think you're getting one, you know, so sometimes I couldn't control it. So it's my fault for that. But understand, having a dadgum electronic eye call the pitches.
Yeah.
No. You're going to run more people off than you think. I mean, it's really. I mean, what do you guys think, Rick? What do you think, Eric?
What do you think, Rick? Go ahead.
I hate them. I mean, it's I've been to a game, the Atlantic League game at Gastonia for the Honey Hunters. They had it, and it was the calls were terrible, and everybody was getting on the umpire because we didn't know, and we found out that later on he had an earpiece in. It takes him a while because he's got to get all the information, pause, and then it's like strike one, and it takes the whole rhythm out of the game, and the stupid computer. I mean, the balls were on the ground, called it a strike. They were high. You know, it was ridiculous. So I hate it. There needs to be some human element to the game. You know, and they're taking the human element out of it. So I understand what they're doing, but they're trying to jazz it up too much and just kind of leave it alone. So the robot umpires and the ghost and all that stuff, I hate it.
All right, let's go to the chat room real quick. Will Vogel says, I despise bat flips and when players hit a fly ball and give a lack of hustle running bases. What if the fielder drops it? You never know because of your lack of hustle. You get thrown out. That's a good point, Will. So you know what I'm going to do? I want to turn this one over to you, Stan. Give me your thoughts about what Will just put out there.
Oh, well, if you hit a ball in fair territory, you need to run like the Dickens to get on first base.
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen? Now, obviously, you're getting in a professional setting. 99.9% of the times, the guy's going to catch the ball. But when they don't catch it and you're not running, boy, that looks really horrible.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a guy that, okay, and I saw this, and this was recent, it was last year. Guy hit one really hard, and it was like 1 out. I mean, he hit it. It looked like it was going out. And he's jogging around the bases,
Oh,
high-fiving himself and all that, and didn't realize the guy caught it, and he kept running. He
Wow.
ran out to third base and touched home plate, and when he got home, the umpire said, "You're out."
Oh,
and,
wow.
and he went all the way into the dugout, and they were wanting to high-five, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" So understand that. Okay, well, you look, let's talk about, the other side of this. You got Pete Rose. They call him Charlie Hustle, right?
Right.
Well, what I remember, there was one particular instance, he walked, got 4 balls, and he sprinted to first base. Well, some reporter asked him, "How come you run to first base all the time when you walk?" He said, "I'm just getting my legs warmed up so I can steal second." So I understand that's a competitor right there, and that's really a team guy trying to get his team in the scoring position by getting to second base and the next guy driving him in. So that part you got to like. Look, I had an issue with a player that was sent down to me when I was in Montreal, and he was a big leaguer, and had an attitude. So they say he's not coming back up. So we got to trade him. You got to play him. So if you have to take him out of the game because he's not hustling, we're not going to, no retribution. So we're going along. This guy is doing really well. He hits a fly ball in behind second base with 2 outs, man on second. I'm looking, golly, he just missed a home run. I mean, he hit it straight up. It wasn't just a glancing blow. It was a line drive straight up. Had he got up a little bit on it, it'd been way out of the ballpark. But I looked down and he's standing at the dugout. I mean, in the batter's box with a bat between his legs, taking his gloves off.
Right.
And I told the other guy, go out there and play his position and tell him to come in. He's done for the night. Well, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to say to him. The guys are standing around. He goes, "What are you going to say, Skip?" I said, "Well, I don't know, but stay out of it." And you could hear a flea fart. And when he walked in the dugout, it was quiet. It was really. He said, "Why'd you take me out of the ball game?" Just right off the top of my head, I said, "Well, I thought you were tired. You hit that ball in fair territory and you didn't even run. So I thought, well, golly, he's tired. Come on, sit down." That was in AAA. Well, so a couple of guys were laughing. I said, "Nah, it's not funny. I'm not laughing. Sit down." And finally we got that guy traded and he was gone forever. So, I don't, when a guy is not giving you a good effort, I mean, really as a manager, you can't start yelling and screaming at everybody all the time. That just doesn't work. It falls on deaf ears after a while. But there's 3 instances where you gotta tell the guys, okay, this is where I might raise my voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're acting like a fool in your uniform, I might ask you to stop. If you don't stop, I might raise my voice. If you're being belligerent to one of your teammates, I might say, okay, that's enough. But if I got to do it twice, I might raise my voice. Right. And really the main one is if you're not hustling, I'm going to say you got to pick it up. And if you don't pick it up, I might raise my voice simply because that's a kind of a manifestation or an indictment on the manager not having control, and they blame the manager on that stuff. Okay. I don't know what they do in the big leagues. I know they do it in the minor leagues. So if the guy's not hustling, I'm all about taking them out of the ball game right where they stand. If they're too tired and we need them out of the ball game, we need somebody in there that's going to play.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else?
Yeah, no, those are good points. No, I mean, there comes a point as a manager that you being the main leader in that clubhouse are going to dictate everything that's going to go on there. Either they follow your lead or, you know what, like you said, get them the heck out of there. And you are so right. And managers lose jobs if their teams aren't disciplined unless they quit on them, then they lose them anyways. So that leads me to I'm
I got
sorry.
to tell you, the discipline part is the worst part I'm seeing about Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great segue to where I'm actually going to go now. Thanks, Stan. I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and talk about that and elaborate more on it. Okay, you talk about players being more individual and hitting numbers not emphasized, and team. We talk about the drama behind looking up to heaven, the bat flip. So let's take all of that, Stan, and put it in its proper perspective. I want you to comment about every one of them, from the individual stuff to not emphasizing the team and the drama, and then these guys can react if they choose to do so.
Well, as we said before we went on live, the individual stuff is it takes 9 quality individual efforts to make collectively a winning team, right? But it has to be in concert with everybody. It can't be a one-man show. These guys that want to be seen, I don't know. They got the dreadlocks. They got their shirts halfway buttoned. Their pants, they wear their pants down like pajamas. They look sloppy, and with the way they're kept, they keep themselves. It looks awful. I don't mind a beard, but I mean a well kept beard or a mustache, well kept. I mean just trimmed up. Look like that you got some class. Instead of the class I'm seeing out there, most of these guys, they look very low. It looks like they crawl right out of a crack or a gutter somewhere. And somebody put a uniform on and said, here, I hope you can hit, get after it. And if they're hitting, okay, we'll let them grow their hair down to their butt. Let them do it as long as they're hitting. Okay, that individual part of that discipline right there is ruining the game because it's becoming a one-man show. And the teams that allow it to go on are just not going to be any good. I'll give you, for instance. Used to be you couldn't have an electronic device in a dugout.
Really?
You remember when Yogi Berra was moving, he had a walkie-talkie or something way back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s. They told him, you can't do that in the dugout. He's moving players around and all that. He's getting indications from, I don't know, somebody up top, wherever. Well, now you can have that stuff in the dugout. Cell phones, right? They got iPads in there. Like, on the football, they got the Microsoft Surface. Everybody's looking at a
tablet.
Yeah. Okay. There was something that came out in LinkedIn where I saw, I was told, they were checking out stuff, that they had to check out but it wasn't tablets, though. It was their cell phones. There were 5 guys sitting in the dugout during the ball game texting on their cell phones.
Jeez.
This is a major league team.
I know.
And it was I know the hitting guy up there. I called him. I said, what's going on? And this is getting out. It doesn't look good. Anyway, so that's what are you going to do? One man can't do it, and the way they're turning this game around, you got a lawyer running baseball. I'm sure the guy, he doesn't even know what a jockey strap is, much less, what a ghost runner is. They're looking at some of this, they're looking at some of these issues they're trying out to see if it helps. I hope it's not permanent. And then they made the DH in the National League now. You talking about taking strategy out of the game,
Right?
You can't do a double switch anymore unless you do it with a player or I don't know. I got to think about that one.
Right.
No, I haven't thought about it a whole lot.
Yeah.
But all right, okay. Then we talk the individual discipline. Here's the other part, Scott, Eric, Rick, Jordan. We got these contracts. All right, players. They got free agency after 6 years, right?
Right.
Is that it? Okay. Well, now when they get up there and they sign a contract for 2 years or 1 year, you're a free agent after that. Okay, now you got all this movement going on, and I mean movement. And look what they're doing in the colleges. You got this NIL deal going. They're paying them All right, things are going crazy, really. Maybe that I've gotten off on a tangent there, but
Sorry.
when you got individual ball players that are in and out in one year, and they're with multiple teams, it's hard to get any continuity established. The ones that stick around and play with their teams for a while, those are the winners. And I've seen it with Atlanta, I've seen it with Houston, seen it with New York, seen it with Boston, and Los Angeles. The rest of these outfits, no, St. Louis too. The rest of these outfits, they're trading people left and right, like Jack McKeon. They used to call him Trader Jack because he messed up Kansas City that way, and he went down to Miami and messed him up too. So anyway.
No, but that's a good point. Listen, Stan, you bring up a lot of valid points, and a lot of these valid points that you're talking about are related to the fact that, let's face it, everybody now is individualized with their cell phones. It doesn't take much for the average player to be distracted between cell phones. And again, I hate the gesture up stairs. Don't get me wrong. I have no problem if you're doing a heaven gesture toward a family member and there's some sincerity behind it. There's some things I'll allow because some people are emotional about loss. I can go there. The bat flip to me is a joke. And I remember many years ago when Laron LeGros, threw at Campy Campaneris, and we saw that bat go flying towards LeGros. I once interviewed Bert Campaneris in Tampa. I think he regrets the way it turned out, but again, if you're throwing inside and the way the nature of the game is, you could expect some sort of, consequences there. But, again, I think you are so right, Stan. You really are, that everything has to be off, individual and team, more so in baseball than any other sport. Basketball, a guy can take over and win you a game or two. Baseball, right. You have 9. And if one guy has a bad night, you got 7 or 8 that can pick him up. And that's what makes this game so much different. I've never seen a team over a course of 162 games rely on one guy to carry him. I don't think I ever have and never will. And there's just certain things that just, you don't go out there, to me, and just trying to do some stupid thing because ultimately it bites you in the rear end. And that's when you and I were talking about bringing this on the show with these guys here, and the things that stood out were not only the bat flip stand, but the team is really what it's all about.
Well, okay, back up. Say the 99 and 2000 Yankees were 2 of the best teams I ever saw. 1999 and 2000, and they got beat by Arizona in 2001, but they were still a stud team, and they got disciplined. They played the game like it needed to be played.
Right.
Yeah, Paul O'Neill out in right field busting his tail every night. Tino Martinez at first base. You got Knobloch at second. You got Jeter at short, and I forgot the guy that came from Oakland. Oh, shoot.
Giambi?
No. Playing third base. Oh,
Scott
man.
Brocious?
What?
Scott Brocious, wasn't it?
Scott Brocious. That's who it was. Yeah. Anyway, Shane Spencer in left field. And oh God, I can't think of the center fielder name.
Bernie Williams.
Bernie Williams, yeah, that was a stud team, and the pitching they had, they went after you every night, and they went hard after you. What's wrong with everybody doing it that way and having some discipline about it? That's what if I'm an owner, I'm going to be like Steinbrenner. I'm going to make it. It's going to be discipline, otherwise you're hitting the road, Jack. That's it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you just get better. You get better. The effort is better, and the production is better. The outcomes are better. So,
well, you had Joe Torre piloting it. What do you expect? The guy learned from his experience at his other stop. So by then, when you give Joe Torre a little bit of talent, Stan, let's face the reality. Okay, he did pretty well with it. Carved out an New York deal with George Steinbrenner.
He did. He did good with Atlanta too. Joe Torre was a heck of a manager, and he was a heck of a ball player too as well. He played hard.
Yeah, he did. All right, so let's talk about the World Baseball Classic. I know this is a strong subject amongst a lot of us. And I think this past World Baseball Classic, and I like, Jordan, I'm going to refer to you in just a moment, okay? The thing that irritated me about this one is a lot of the top pitchers are not participating, and I think it should be moved to the summer. and it's grown in tremendous popularity. Now, granted, the hitters obviously was an offensive show, so hitters were able to get up to speed with it. So, Stan, I'm going to go around the horn with this, if I may. Why don't you comment on what you thought of the World Baseball Classic, and then follow it up, Stan, by whether you think it should be moved to a different time frame. Okay, Stan.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to be short here because I didn't do a whole lot on it, but I thought it was interesting the way it was done. And the guys that were sitting out, I don't know. I think they're weak individually, to be honest with you. If they're not ready to go to play in something like that, then they shouldn't be there anyway. I don't know if they should be on a major league team. Anyway, that's about all I got for that. And I thought what was interesting was Ohtani throwing against Mike Trout and striking him out. Well, look, those guys are teammates too. So, that was a tit for tat on another night. Trout might hit one out of the ballpark on him.
All right, let me comment on a couple of things that Denzel Snipes put in there. 2000 Yankees also KO'd 100 wins Seattle. He's got another one that says, with that said, okay, the Diamondbacks were a team of destiny. Yanks play anybody else, they win 5 out of 6. Guess what, Denzel? I lived in Arizona at the time, and it was an awful lot of fun being able to watch the Diamondbacks win their only world championship, being in a part of the area where obviously we know the events of 9/11 took there. So, Jordan, I know you you have something to say about it. Go ahead.
Well, I thought, honestly, the World Baseball Classic, I enjoy it because you have these players who don't get a chance to represent their country. They got a chance to do so. That said, I thought it was fun to watch, Mike Trout go against Ohtani. As for moving it, I'm not sure how you could do it other than maybe if you moved it, in June, July, and have a couple of weeks off for baseball. But then that's what the NHL does when the Olympics are played. I'm just not sure how you can really do that with Major League Baseball because the season, you're playing 162 games. You don't want to shut down the league for a couple of weeks. As for, the Stars not playing and some of them were actually hurt going in there, but also I would agree with Stan. Some of them are just weak, like they were scared to play in it.
Anybody else want to comment on this before we talk about the comparisons from one Huff to another? Stan knows where I'm going with this one. Anybody else?
Okay, let me ask a question real quick.
Sure.
How long was that World Baseball? How long did that take?
I think about 3 weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so why couldn't they do this after the season? And 3 weeks after the season, then.
Good point. Yeah, no, I like that.
I think they'll be too tired.
That way,
That's
well,
their
here's
complaint.
I don't think any players would want to play after that because you have the off season and you got to prepare for the next season.
Yeah, they got plenty of time in the off season, though. And I understand what you're saying, but everybody's in shape at that time. Everybody, but they should be. If they're hurt, that's their problem. I mean, really, truly, Anyway, but you're right. That would be a tough one as far as when to do it. You're right. I agree with that.
I mean,
there's no exact science of this thing. I think they're only. I'm sorry, Eric. I guess they're doing it the only time they can. I just heard a lot of criticism about the time frame as well. So go ahead, Eric. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, the criticism you're mostly hearing is because that star player on their team got hurt. That's why they're criticizing it. Right. Otherwise, if there was no injuries, it wouldn't be a discussion. Right. But I think you could do it after the season. The players are in shape, but at the same time, though, there's that, they just went through a 162 game grind, including the postseason.
Right. And I can't deny that. You're right.
And, by the time October rolls around, either they're drinking champagne or their season's done, where they want some time to chill before they pack up their bags in February, or or sign with whatever team they're going to sign with and head down to either Florida or Arizona. So the question becomes when. I mean, hockey and basketball are a little different because those sports are played kind of periodically. Baseball is an everyday deal. So shutting that down, shutting down that repetition, that's going to hurt the players because they're into a routine and stuff. And then when you shut down that routine, I mean, if we saw what happened, during COVID with the stop-start deal, it really affected the players.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Let me even add to that. Okay. I remember if a team has like 7 days off between the playoffs and the World Series, their timing can be disrupted. I remember the Tigers lost to the Cardinals. You saw what happened. The Tigers were heavy favorites going into that series, and the Cardinals dispatched Detroit in 5. As much I hate to say it, it's a reality. And of course, you know about COVID-19. I'll never forget the Miami Marlins. You know, were the first ones to get hit with the outbreak, and they're throwing balls inside of socks. So, I mean, if you would have been on stand those Zoom calls with Don Mattingly and what those were all about, they were classic. I wish I could have taped a few of those. But throwing balls, I mean, it was like these Zoom calls were like no other. If you want to go to vaudeville, let me tell you, those Zoom calls are the closest thing that would get you there for sure. So there's really no easy answer for this whole thing. But I'm telling you, you know, but the one thing that can't be lost sight of, and you're right, Stan, is timing in baseball is everything. It really, really, really is. I mean, you know, you have slumps that are long, and then sometimes you're in a zone. And the thing that we can't lose sight of in baseball compared to any other sport, that if you are hitting 30%, you are considered a saint, and you are the greatest player on the planet.
And think about it. You're a 70% failure. Now,
Right. That's true.
if we all went into regular business and we did 30%, how long do you think we'd be in business?
Not
Not
long.
long.
We'd be in the Salvation Army begging for a bowl of soup. We'd be bankrupt. That's
True.
a different reality in baseball, though. And why? Why do you
Yeah.
think? Well, it's because there's a defense out there that says you're not going to get ahead. Now, and I know particularly there was some guys that I'd hit balls on the nose, and no way they got to them and catch them or throw me out. And then dadgummit, those are base hits I needed. So, but you're playing against good ball players; they're going to do that to you if they're hustling. Yeah, some of them just Jake legged it around. Not all of them, but some of them did.
All right, so let's talk about something a little bit fun here. Okay, I know that you probably hear this from time to time. You related to Charlie Huff, and you were telling me a story that you were together in spring training from 87 to 91. So what would a Stan Huff reference be without Charlie Huff? I know Eric Katz is chomping at the bit to get one. Everybody's got an opportunity to chime in on Charlie Huff, but you know what? Nothing better than the first Huff here, so that we can have
Charlie
Charlie
Huff is a good guy. He's a good guy. We got along well. And I told him one time, I said, "There's no way you're related to me." He said, "Why?" Because I said, "I'm better looking than you are." No, but anyway, I really couldn't pin it down. Maybe I'm understanding that the girl that dances on that Dancing with the Stars, I can't think of her name right now, and her brother or his nephews and niece and nephews.
All right.
Y'all know who I'm talking about?
I think so. I don't really watch.
I'm
the
drawing a
show.
blank there.
I don't
Sorry.
really watch
Yeah.
the show.
Anyway, so he was good. He came in one day, one spring training, and he's throwing a knuckleball, right? So he comes over to the AAA room. He said, "Okay, boys," he said, "I'm pitching for you guys today. Now, everybody be on your toes because I'm going to be backing up third a lot." And I started laughing. I was the only one who was laughing. And I think they're all looking like, "What?" Well, he's going to be giving up a lot of extra base hits because he said until that knuckleball gets better, that's what's going to happen. And dadgum, if he was right, he was backing up third off 4 or 5 innings that he pitched that day. But he's quite a guy. He's a nice guy, and I don't know. I can't say for sure if we are or we aren't. But if we are, it's distant. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, well, maybe the ancestors will have something to say about it. I don't know anything about all that business of what do they call them, family chains. I have no idea what they're all about.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan, you have an answer to this about the Huff situation at all?
I had nothing for you.
All right, Mr. Katz, the encyclopedia, the guy that refers to as your biggest fan there, Stan. What do you have to say about the Huff situation, Mr. Katz?
Well, I know Charlie Huff had a very long career. I know Scott, at one point he was in your neck of the woods with the Marlins
Right.
on the first team there.
Right.
But I don't know. I got nothing.
Well, okay. Now it's my understanding he came up with the Dodgers, and he was
Yeah.
a hard thrower, and he hurt his arm. And for him to stay there, he had to develop another pitch, and he got a knuckleball. That's I heard that story. I can't validate that or verify it at all, but that knuckleball saved his bacon pretty good. I mean, he had a good one.
He did.
Okay, we were throwing knuckleballs. Of course, I was a catcher. You know, all the catchers throwing knuckleballs. I'm playing catch with him. We start throwing knuckleballs. Well, I threw one, and he put his glove up to catch it, and it hit him in the knee. He said, "What? Hey, I'm supposed to be doing that." I said, "Well, I lucked out." No, he's a good guy.
Let me tell you what, Stan, you're talking to another guy that was a catcher too. I like catching. That was the one position I really grew into. I dealt with the knuckleballs, but boy, you better be on your toes there when it comes to fielding that pitch. Otherwise, you look either good or bad. All right, so I know you and I crossed paths back in the 80s. Okay, I was the director of public relations, as I alluded to earlier in the show, of the Gastonia Rangers, and some interesting characters passed through. Chino Kadahia was a manager of a team that, by the way, lost 9 games.
Yeah,
and then you got Sammy. What's that?
Perry Hill.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Okay. Perry Hill, Chino Kadahia, Sammy Sosa, Juan Gonzalez, Dean Palmer. So I'm all right, Stan. You know, we both lived it. I probably knew you back then, of course, many years ago. Now that we're connected again, only you and I can appreciate that team. So why don't you talk about each and every one of these individuals and tell them what they meant to you or what you thought about them?
Chino's a fun guy to be around, and he's a very smart individual. He's a catcher too, and Chino and Orlando Gomez and I were. They told us y'all work with Pudge, so we were running Pudge in the ground when he was a kid, and Chino was a big part of that too. Let's see, Perry Hill. You know, here's a guy that he studies infield play and he develops a technique, some techniques to play, and it's well received. And next thing you know, he's got 20 years in the big leagues as an infield instructor. So you got to give him credit right there. Outstanding guy, individual, great, outstanding guy. Dean Palmer. Dean Palmer got a quick bat. My gosh, this guy. He could turn on anybody's fastball. Now, we had a kid that let me tell you this story real quick. We had a kid that, he thought he lived and died by his fastball, but, he'd use it too much. We traded him to the Cubs. He comes back and he says he's gonna eat our sack lunch. Well, we're at All Sports Stadium in Oklahoma City, and that night I'm coaching first base, and this kid throws that fastball to Dean Palmer, and he turned on that sucker, and it went into the night going up. Now, it rained the next day, and we were real curious we wanted to go find that ball because it went out a long way. Wow. So, the guys that had the tape measure, the 100-yard tape measure, it's 330 to left field fence. You had to go up an embankment, and then there's a road, and then another embankment. Then you got Interstate 44 up there. Well, it was on that second embankment. It was 210 feet farther than 330 foot. It was 540 feet. Wow. He hit the ball. It stuck in the mud. It didn't move. We dug it out. So you don't think we gave that kid a hard time the next night? Yeah, we went and tape measured it. It was 540 feet, but you got that really good fastball working for you. Wow. So Dean Palmer could turn on one. Now, Juan Gonzalez. Now, here's the guy. And Sammy Sosa, those two guys were with us too. Yeah. Sammy played hard every night. Juan had a mood. He was kind of moody. I thought he was a little bit immature socially and emotionally, but what a ball player. These guys, and Sammy Sosa played hard every night. So you like to see these guys come up to the plate with men in scoring position. Or just to get an inning started, As a sports writer asked me one time in Oklahoma City, what do you think of Juan Gonzalez? I said, I think he's going to be a superstar. What do you know about that? Well, I said, let's just leave it at that. That's, you look at a superstar, the definition of a superstar, in my opinion, is a guy that's coming up to the plate and getting a base hit when you really need it to drive in a tying run or a winning run, and doing it with no outs or 2 outs, any situation. A guy hitting a 2-run home run when you're down by 1. A pitcher throwing a shutout when he's busting his tail out there for 7, 8, 9 innings. Okay, and doing it consistently. Those are superstars as far as I'm concerned, because they're the competitors that you want to have on your side. Okay, you don't want those guys playing against you because they're going to run you in the dirt. They'll beat you.
All right,
Yeah.
you want to hear some interesting stories about some of these guys? Let me. You can finish, but I got some good stuff for you. Ready? What were you
No,
going to
go
say? I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right, number one, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. You know, of course, I was traveling with the team from time to time. We're staying at one of these hotels, and you're right, Stan. Juan Gonzalez could get moody. He took a laundry basket thing right inside the hall because he was so mad. I mean, I don't know what got into this guy said, but he took a laundry basket, lifted it, just threw it and everything, and it was unbelievable. Sammy
In the
Sosa,
hotel.
yeah, he did. Oh, it was. I'll never forget it. It was like it happened yesterday. Well, come on, you already said Stan. The guy's a moody individual. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
did you remember the owner, Jack Farnsworth, at the time? He was a Bible salesman. You know,
Yeah.
Jack didn't want to spend any money, and everybody gave him a hard time. I was actually their PA announcer, and I'll never forget the time when a guy by the name of Paul Postier went to the plate. I said, well, that'll leave it all up to Paul Postier. And I got this line from George Kell of the Detroit Tigers, and Paul Postier give me this look up there. What are you doing? Making it put me. I mean, come on, man. You can't handle the pressure being a pro ball. Get that little daylights out of here.
Hey, wait a minute now. Paul Postier played for us in Tulsa and did a really good job. We won the Texas League in 1988.
Oh, I know, but when it came to let me tell you what, the one thing that Jack Farnsworth says he had, okay, with the Texas Ray, well, I'm gonna make sure I get your time. Go, hello. But yeah, no, I'll never forget when I'm gonna get all the top prospects, and you know what? Lo and behold, yeah, we did, only lost 90 games. Now here's an interesting part of that whole story, okay, and that's this. I told Jack Farnsworth, you realize the manager getting in here lost 90 games because I was working in the Florida State League prior to this, okay? And he for the Fort Myers, I think he in the South Atlantic, the Florida State League. No, he didn't. Yeah, he did. Well, sorry, Jack. Rest in peace out in Gastonia. But we had a 90, but the lost manager with us, but yet ironically a lot of major leaguers. So when you put it in perspective and you look at the minor leagues, Sammy Sosa, I had to tell you, one of my favorite stories was over at Joe Robbie Stadium when the Chicago Cubs were in town to face the Marlins at that stadium before they moved to Marlins Park. And I'll never forget when she wouldn't let me do a one-on-one. Why would you? I mean, everybody else wants them. So I'm standing on the field. Hey, Sammy, remember me? Oh, he gives me this old Sosa grin like you wouldn't believe. All right, Sharon, okay. You realize he knows me? The next day, the woman gave me a one-on-one interview, but I had to go to the ballpark like 2 or 3 times until I pulled it off. Well, I told her, I said, listen, Sharon, okay, once upon a time I had your job, and now I understand, but I'm legitimate. You don't have to worry. I'm not going to go talk about the old other business. I only want to reminisce what we did. So, you got stories, I got stories, but yet you and I were teammates, and 87, here we are in 22, 23, doing one interview per year, and we have a new audience. Well, not Eric Katz and Rick Curdy, but Jordan Long is a new kid on the block in this broadcast. So you and I can talk stories all day long. But you know what? I've done such a good time talking here. I'm going to let everybody on the crew be able to ask you a question or two. Go ahead, Rick Curdy, start it off.
So you're not related
right?
to Charlie Huff.
Well,
do you see yourself
Curdy
managing again? I'm sorry.
What did you say? I didn't understand you, Rick.
I said something about did you you miss ever not managing in the big leagues?
Yeah, I miss it every day. I mean, that was the life I liked, and it just and in some ways it worked, in some ways it didn't. I mean, you're in a really fickle situation where some owners love you, some owners don't. You don't know it. I mean, you don't know. You think you're in, you're out. Think you're out, you're in. So it was a toss up all the time. In the last 3 places I was at, I was like the new guy in. So they were all the time shuffling, making changes. So anyway, I got like 35 years involved in the game, something like that. Anyway, so I enjoyed it. Okay. And the only regret was the playing time. Now I backed up 5 number 1 picks, and one year I caught 100 games. So that thinking back about playing this thing after the season, you're right. It wouldn't work because everybody's tired. The ones 100 games in the season, but I caught about 15 or 20 in spring training. So it was more than 100 games. So when you're getting up and you're busting it every night, trying to get something started, like do something, it wears on you. And now I'm getting older, and I'm starting to feel those aches and pains that I could slough off when I was younger.
Join the club.
Yeah.
When you get to our age, those aches and pains become a little bit more than aches and pains. Not that you guys know about it, but I played that position a while too. And I'll tell you what, my dad went through a lot of reinforcements when he owned a sporting goods store. I don't have to get into the logistics for it. I'll let everybody read between the lines. Reinforcements below the belt, do the rest. Rick, you have another question for Stan?
No, I'm good.
All right, turn over to Jordan.
So, what would you say is the best player you either managed or, played against?
Oh my gosh, I played against a bunch of really good players, and the best player that I managed, I'd say, was Milton Bradley, but he was a bad boy, and Juan Gonzalez. Well, let's say I didn't manage Juan, but I was a coach, so let me think. A couple of guys. Max Scherzer, I managed him. He could pitch. Luke Hochevar. They came to Fort Worth. They were in the draft and didn't work out, so they came to us, and they both had about 5 starts for us, and wonderful, man. 30, 40 scouts at each game that they pitched. So it was. I told the guys, I said, be on your best behavior and play. Put your hitting shoes on or put your running shoes on, and make sure you show up with these guys watching you. They came here for one guy, but they might see another guy, and it might be you. So I encourage everybody to. It's such a competitive environment, and you want to be on top of it every night. You don't know who's seeing it, watching you. I coached Dean Palmer. I coached Chad Kruder. It was a good catcher. It was a really good catcher. Who else? Anyway, I helped with Pudge, but Pudge I never managed. Let me think here. Come to mind. It's kind of vague right now, but I got to tell you, there was a lot of guys that I had that they would they'd give you the shirt off their back, and they'd go hard every night. They were wonderful people to be around, and I appreciated them, and they were as competitive as I was. And at times we were a little kind of at crossways a little bit, but it all worked out. We had a kid named Mark Marizzi, who was a shortstop. I had him with the Yankees. He came over to Fort Worth. He was a heck of an infielder, and he could hit too. And big game was nothing to him, and he performed too. So I appreciated his effort too.
Great question, Jordan. No, you have any other questions, Jordan?
I do not.
All right, Eric.
Yep, you were in New York around the time with the Yankees, around the time when Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden got their second chance in baseball. Can you tell me about what they were like and what your opinion was of them?
Well, okay, I came in right after them, so they weren't there. They weren't in the big leagues with. Although I know Darryl. Darryl was with the Mets, and actually I saw him at a Jackson Mets reunion we had last year. So we got to talk to him. He's a pastor now. Now, Doc Gooden, I know he's had some trouble with the drugs, and I don't know if he's shaking it or not, but I hope he has. But anyway, those guys were performers. I mean, they brought Doc Gooden up to big leagues when he was 19 years old. Mm-hmm. Davey Johnson said, "I want him, and I want him right now," and that's all it took right there. And it turned out to be a very good move. I don't know for a kid that 19 years old. And you're going to New York. I mean, that's the pinnacle right there. You're going to play in New York City. I don't care if it's the Mets, the Yankees. You're playing in New York. Right. So, but I got to tell you, the Met and Yankee fans they can be brutal. Yeah. Now, when I was managing in Waterbury, went to a game one night in Shea Stadium. The Mets were playing the Yankees. general manager had a couple tickets. Said, "You want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, we had a day off." So, well, went. We sat on the Mets side, on first base side. All right, the Yankees were on the third base side. They put all the Mets fans from the middle of the behind the plate to the right side. All the Yankee fans were to the middle, to the third base side, right? Well, the whole game they were cussing each other out the whole game. I don't know if they even watched the game. The fans were on each other during the ball game. That's how radical that was. And I just sat there in amazement. Here I am, a country boy from Texas, and I'm watching. Oh, this is how the city folks do it.
Well, it's amazing how you say that, Stan. I'll never forget the time when I saw the Yankees and the Mets play at Fort Lauderdale Stadium. And boy, the energy with all these fans at Fort Lauderdale Stadium was incredible. Can you imagine if you had a stadium with another 40, 45,000 more with them, and you get to see it due to interleague play? So if anybody can appreciate where you're coming from, Stan, I had a chance to see this rivalry many years ago when Steinbrenner owned the team in Fort Lauderdale. And you know what? I think Jay Horowitz, the PR guy, one of the nicest PR guys you could ever meet, for allowing me to cover that game. Jay's always been one of my favorites. I've dealt with a lot of PR guys, but Jay Horowitz is by far and away in a class by himself. So if he's listening,
He is a good guy.
Jay, I can, you know what? Some of these New York guys, say what you want. I got to tell you a funny story. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I had Tom Gage, Hall of Fame sports writer for the Detroit Tigers, on. Of course, him being a Midwestern guy, being what he is, and me being a Detroit guy my whole life. But, I've been away from the Tiger organization for a lot of years, unlike some other people, that I had an opportunity to get to know some of these New York writers. And one of my favorites of all times was a guy by the name of Phil Pepe. And Phil Pepe, I'll tell you, taught me a lot of things about writing. And some of these New York writers were always helpful to me every time I needed their help, picking up pointers. And more power to the metropolitan New York fan base and media, those that helped me out in my earlier years. But when you sit in a Yankee Mets game, whether you're in spring training or a regular season, the electricity is there no matter what happens, because New Yorkers, let's face it, they're going to go at each other no matter how serious it is, regardless. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, I went to 4 spring trainings with the Mets. Okay. Torrey was the manager. No, let's see here.
Back in the 80s.
Yeah, 70s. Anyway, I can't remember the Joe right before Torrey. Anyway, I was there, and all those reporters were in spring training. They were there all the time. Right. Matter of fact, there was one, this little short freckle-faced guy. I'd come in one day, and I was, we had soup. We had bouillon soup and a boiled egg and a banana or an apple, and that was it. So I'm coming in and I'm watching this guy. He sticks a banana in his briefcase. And I went, "Hey, that's my banana. Put it back. I want to eat that." Who are you anyway? Well, he starts arguing with me. I said, "Hey, I want my banana." Well, Torrey came up and said, "What's the problem?" I said, "He's got my banana. He put my banana in his briefcase." He let him have the banana stand. Well, anyway, when you're hot and sweaty and you want something to eat and the reporter's taking it, you got to have something to say about it. You're the one out there running and ripping and tired. And you want a banana. Well, give me a banana, will you? He stole my banana.
Well, don't kid yourself. Nowadays, I use bananas because I got cramps in my legs, so I make sure my wife gets them every week. So this goes to show you where I'm at this stage in my life. So I don't know. I like banana stories, but I almost kind of sympathize with the other guy after what I've had to deal with these days. So I don't know.
He had every right. He was in there. He's writing good stuff about us, and Torrey had every right.
No, I'm with you all the way.
Anyway.
All right, so this is the time of the broadcast where everybody has parting shots. Stan, I don't know if you've got one, but I know a few of these guys do, and I'm going to defer from mine only because I'm enjoying the conversation with you anyways. 2 guys that crossed paths in Gastonia, North Carolina, not far from Mr. Curdy off of I-85 at Sims Park, which undoubtedly has been replaced by a different venue, although it's still there. I guess they still use it, but not for what Pro Ball. So, all right, Jordan, you want a parting shot? Go ahead and take it.
All right, so the Chicago Cubs, signed Nico Horner to a new deal. It's going to pay him $11.66 million for the next 3 years. I don't understand why they did this. The reason is, yeah, he's a .277 hitter. The problem is he does not hit home runs. He hasn't proven he can. He's basically only had 13 home runs in his career and 101 RBIs. 10 of those home runs came last year. So I guess the thinking is that he's still going to develop, but I just don't understand why they would do this now rather than waiting one more year.
Okay. Well, you know what? I want to go back to one here. Okay, with Stan. I do remember the days when Mickey Lolich, Vita Blue, and all these guys used to eat innings. And I got to tell you, I do miss a complete game. And there were so many great pitchers of the past. I'm not even in the Hall of Fame, but Mickey Lolich to me was an innings eater. There are a lot of innings eaters that unfortunately are not in the Hall of Fame. So if I'm going to have a parting shot of my own, I'm with you. I missed a complete game. And the one guy I wish was in the Hall of Fame was Mickey Lolich, and I'm sure there's a lot of innings eaters. But innings eaters should be recognized, considering what the heck you have now. Whatever the modern standard is for a quality start of 7. You know what, Stan? You and I used to go ahead and see them all the time. So,
Yeah.
This comment is for all those innings eaters like Mickey Lolich that never got in the Hall of Fame that should be. But that said, okay, go ahead, Eric Katz. What's your parting shot?
Well, I'm so happy the Yankees did the right thing by bringing up Anthony Volpe. I mean, Peraza was probably the safe bet, but at the end of the day, Volpe outperformed him in camp. The Yankees did the right thing, bring him up, and now the kid's practically the same age as a very young Derek Jeter was when he was brought up. So hopefully there's a little bit of magic in that bat.
Okay, Rick, do you have one?
Yeah, I saw in a recent poll, Jacob deGrom was voted to be the American League Cy Young, and I'm like, why? The guy can't stay healthy. He's going to a different league. He's not going to be good in the American League. We've seen that. I remember Mark Davis when he went to the Royals. He was terrible. I just don't see that with deGrom. I think he's going to struggle in Texas. I don't think he'll be the same. I think he'll be injury prone. And I just don't see him just being even successful. So for them to say he's going to get the Cy Young Award in the American League this year, to me, is really ridiculous.
That's a
If I were
stretch.
him, my goal would get the Cy Young Award. How about just
Finish the
just
season.
complete
Yeah,
the
finish
season
the
without
season,
any
stop being
injuries,
hurt.
and then
I can guarantee you that front office and the Rangers owner is probably cringing every time a pitching coach or a trainer has to go out to that mound.
He's in a different league with different players. We saw Pujols; he wasn't the same when he went to the American League.
No,
And I just see the same with deGrom. It's not going to work. Not only is he going to get hurt, he's not going to be as good as he was in the National League.
When he faces the Astros, he is going to get shellacked.
Yeah.
Now we'll leave
Hey,
it.
I got a little trivia for you.
All right, go ahead.
Bruce Bochy's the new manager of the Texas Rangers, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was traded for him.
Oh wow.
Me and a guy named Randy Rogers. We went for Bruce Bochy. Bochy went to the White House. We went to the doghouse.
That is so funny.
That's funny. I got a story about Bruce Bochy.
Oh, do you really?
He's a great guy, though. I tell you
Oh
what.
yes, like I met for those who remember, the broadcaster from ESPN, obviously now the San Francisco Giants, John Miller. Great broadcaster. If he was there when the Giants were going through their three-peat, not quite their three-peat, but their 3 rings and even number of years or whatever it was. And, so John Miller's not wearing his World Series ring. Boch is just sitting there looking at this. And he's like, why aren't you wearing your ring? He's like, John Miller's like, well, I didn't help anything to win. And he's like, Bruce is like, I didn't either. He's like, and John's just like dumbfounded. And he's like, I just made a move and hoped and prayed the guys would execute.
All right, let me add this real quickly, okay? Just to recap, the audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. So if you're out there outside, you don't have access to watching it, no problem. That's how you can hear it. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. We're striving. We obviously, if you want to be a guest, okay, please send the topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. I emphasize we're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Everyone helps. We would appreciate that as well. If you want to advertise, okay, call 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And I should point out to you as well that, you know, the subscribers are important for us, and we appreciate the fact that we put a lot of work into these shows there. So again, please subscribe and go from there. You know, and again, our email address is southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Comments or any things that you want to talk about, feel free. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Tribune South, okay, on Twitter. So, you know, with that said, this is a part of the program where I give everybody an opportunity to go out there and let everybody know how to get hold of them. All right, Eric Katz, lead it off.
Well, you can follow me on my Twitter at Sports Team News, where I'm tweeting everything baseball, or at the blog I write for, Belly Up Sports, where I write about everything related to the game of baseball.
Okay, you're up next, Jordan.
You can find me on Twitter at SportsCube1. I have a blog that I write Monday through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com. Of course, I'm on a bunch of Sideline Sports Network shows.
That leaves up to you, Rick, and then we'll go to Stan. And I have one more thing I'll mention about Candy Ebling. Go ahead.
www.charlottebats.com. Find me on Facebook at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Twitter, Charlotte Bats Baseball, Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curdy, and my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. And go on our website and sign our petition.
All right, kudos to Candy Ebling. If you want to find out, I'll go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Gets it done. She puts all the shows up, all the content. Without her, we'd have a very hard time putting this operation together. And so kudos to Candy. She's a jack of all trades, a master of them all as well. Stan, what can I say? You want to let everyone know how they get a hold of you as well, my friend?
Well, I'm not really a social media guy, but no, I got an email address, STHOUGH at Hotmail.
Anybody want to talk? There you go. Email them. So meanwhile, what a great show. Any closing comments before we call it a night?
Nope.
No.
Well,
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
We've covered it well. Our obviously friend of the show, Stan Huff, was kind enough to join us on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So we'll be back next Tuesday night, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So on behalf of Eric Katz, Jordan Long, Rick Curdy, Stan Huff, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and we will catch you the next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.